Ever feel like the world's gone a little, well, illogical? Like we're collectively losing the plot, forgetting how to actually think? Today, we're talking about something fundamental, something crucial to navigate this chaotic world: critical thinking. It seems like this vital skill is taking a nosedive, and I think two big reasons. Ignorance and something I'm calling idolatry are largely to blame for the messy state of our conversations and our society. Stick with me. This isn't just about big philosophical ideas. It's about your everyday life, your decisions, and the world you're living in right now. If you've ever felt frustrated by how easily misinformation spreads, or how quickly people dig their heels in on an opinion without really understanding it, then you need to hear this. We're going to pull back the curtain on why this is happening and what it's truly costing us, both as individuals and as a society. All right, let's kick this off by getting clear on what we're even talking about here. When I say critical thinking, I'm not talking about being a cynic or just poking holes in every idea. It's not about being negative. No, critical thinking is actually a superpower. It's the ability to look at information, any information, and ask, is this true? How do I know it's true? What are the biases at play here? What are the hidden assumptions? It's about building a robust mental framework to evaluate, analyze, and synthesize. Think of it like this. Imagine you're handed a beautiful shiny apple. A non-critical thinker just bites right into it, assuming it's good. A critical thinker, though, they'll first check for bruises, for worms, maybe even smell it, gently squeeze it, and wonder where it came from. They're not rejecting the apple outright. They're just making sure it's actually a good, safe apple before they consume it. That's all critical thinking is, an internal quality control system for your mind. It's about separating fact from opinion, evidence from anecdote. It's about recognizing when someone is trying to manipulate you with emotional appeals instead of logical arguments. It's about being able to hold two opposing ideas in your head at once and weigh them fairly instead of just immediately picking sides. It's a muscle, a mental muscle that needs to be exercised. And frankly, it feels like that muscle has atrophied in a lot of people lately. We're often so eager to accept the first piece of information that aligns with what we already believe, or the one that's presented most dramatically, that we skip the essential steps of questioning and evaluating. We're just biting into every apple without looking, and sometimes those apples are rotten. Sometimes they're even poisonous. Now, why is this happening? Why are we letting this critical thinking muscle get flabby? Well, a huge part of it, I believe, is simply ignorance. And I don't mean stupidity here, not in a derogatory way. I mean a genuine lack of knowledge or information. It's not always a choice, but sometimes it is. Sometimes ignorance becomes strangely comfortable. Let's be real, thinking is hard work. Really thinking about complex issues, researching different perspectives, challenging your own deeply held beliefs, it's mentally exhausting. It's a lot easier to just scroll through social media, read a headline, and form an opinion based on the first thing you see. It's easier to nod along with what your friends say or what your favorite news pundit says because it fits neatly into your existing worldview. This is where cognitive biases come in, especially confirmation bias. We actively seek out information that confirms what we already believe, and we ignore or dismiss anything that contradicts it. It's like building an echo chamber in your own mind. You only hear your own thoughts, reflected back at you, getting louder and louder. This isn't because you're dumb. It's because our brains are wired for efficiency. They like shortcuts. They want to conserve energy. And challenging your own beliefs, letting new, potentially uncomfortable information in, that takes a lot of energy. Consider something as simple as a health claim you see online. Maybe it's a miracle cure for a common ailment. A critical thinker would pause, wonder about the source, look for peer-reviewed studies, check for conflicts of interest. An uncritical mind, fueled by the comfort of not knowing, might just share it immediately if it sounds good, or if it aligns with their distrust of conventional medicine, without any deeper thought. The potential consequences of this comfort of not knowing can be devastating, both for individuals and for public health. We often choose the easy path, the path of least resistance, which is often the path of simply not asking questions. And when enough people do that, society itself starts to lose its bearings. Beyond plain ignorance, there's another powerful force at play here, and it's something I call idolatry. Now, I'm not talking about religious idols here, not directly anyway. I'm talking about the human tendency to place blind, unquestioning faith in certain people, institutions, or ideologies. We elevate them to a status where their pronouncements are taken as gospel, above scrutiny, beyond questioning. Think about it. Who are the idols of our modern age? They could be political leaders, charismatic influencers, a particular news network, a scientific expert who says exactly what we want to hear, or even a specific social movement. We often outsource our thinking to these figures or groups. Instead of doing the mental heavy lifting ourselves, we trust that they know best, that they have all the answers. We adopt their opinions as our own, without truly understanding the nuances, the evidence, or the counter-arguments. This isn't just about hero worship. It's about the psychological relief of not having to figure things out for yourself. If your favorite pundit or influencer tells you exactly what to think about a complex issue, it's incredibly tempting to just accept it. It saves you time, it saves you mental effort, and it gives you a ready-made identity to align with. I believe X because my idol believes X. This becomes a shield against having to engage with opposing viewpoints or even with facts that might challenge that belief. The problem, of course, is that no single person, no institution, no ideology has a monopoly on truth. Even the smartest, most well-intentioned people can be wrong or biased or misinformed. When we stop questioning, when we stop engaging our critical faculties, we become vulnerable. We become followers, not thinkers. We exchange genuine understanding for comfortable allegiance. And in doing so, we give immense power to those we idolize, often without realizing the potential for that power to be misused or simply misguided. We trade autonomy for apparent certainty, and that's a dangerous deal to make. So, what happens when ignorance and idolatry take root, when critical thinking skills decline across a population? Well, the damage isn't confined to individual minds. It ripples out, shaping and often fracturing our society in profound ways. We start seeing a breakdown in fundamental aspects of a healthy, functioning community. One of the most obvious effects is the erosion of productive discourse. Conversations devolve into shouting matches. Not because people disagree, but because they often can't articulate why they disagree, or they're not even engaging with the same set of facts. Instead of discussing policy or evidence, we get personal attacks, tribal loyalty tests, and accusations. When you're more committed to your idol or your comfortable ignorance than to finding truth, every discussion becomes a battle to defend your team, not a collaboration to understand reality. This leads to intense polarization, where people inhabit completely different realities, unable to find common ground even on basic facts. Think about the challenges facing our world right now: climate change, public health crises, economic inequality, geopolitical tensions. These are not simple problems with easy answers. They require nuanced understanding, complex data analysis, and the ability to consider multiple perspectives. But if a significant portion of the population can't or won't engage in that kind of critical thought, if they're simply waiting for their chosen idol to give them the approved narrative, or clinging to easily disproven claims because it feels familiar, then how can we possibly come together to solve these issues? We get stuck in gridlock, paralyzed by ideological purity tests and the inability to distinguish between a credible solution and a comforting fantasy. Misinformation, of course, runs rampant. Without critical thinking, every outrageous claim, every conspiracy theory, every emotionally charged anecdote gains traction. People don't pause to verify. They just hit share if it confirms their existing biases or demonizes their perceived enemies. This isn't just annoying. It has real-world consequences, from undermining trust in essential institutions to influencing elections with outright falsehoods, and even leading to dangerous health choices. A society that can't collectively discern truth from fiction is a society that's easily manipulated, easily divided, and ultimately unable to make informed decisions about its own future. The social fabric starts to fray when we can no longer agree on what's real. Let's be honest, the internet, with all its incredible power, has become a supercharger for this decline in critical thinking. It's not just a passive medium. It actively, almost aggressively, shapes how we consume information and, by extension, how we think. Or perhaps more accurately, how we don't think. First, there's the sheer volume of information. We're swimming in data, bombarded from every angle. It's overwhelming. Our brains simply aren't designed to process that much incoming information, especially when it's all screaming for our attention. So what do? We take shortcuts, we skim, we glance at headlines. We react emotionally instead of rationally. We outsource our filtering process to algorithms that, ironically, are designed to give us more of what we already like, pushing us deeper into those echo chambers we talked about. You see more of what you already agree with, and less of anything that might challenge your perspective, reinforcing both ignorance and idolatry. Then there's the speed. News travels at the speed of light, and nuance dies in the dark. Complex issues are reduced to sound bites, memes, or 280-character tweets. There's no time or perceived need for deep dives or careful consideration. The first, most sensational or most emotionally charged take often wins, not the most accurate or well-reasoned. This instant gratification culture extends to our information consumption. We want answers, and we want them now, even if those answers are superficial or flat-out wrong. The internet rewards quick reactions, outrage, and tribal signaling over thoughtful reflection. Social media platforms, in particular, are built to leverage our psychological vulnerabilities. They encourage performance, not contemplation. They prioritize engagement, clicks, likes, shares, over-accuracy, or genuine understanding. This creates a perverse incentive structure. The more inflammatory, the more simplistic, the more polarizing a piece of content, the more it gets amplified. And what gets lost in that amplification? The messy, complicated, often uncomfortable truth that critical thinking requires us to grapple with. The platforms become stages for idol worship, where influencers and pundits are elevated and dissenting or complex ideas are shouted down or ignored. It's a feedback loop, continuously rewarding our baser cognitive instincts and actively disincentivizing the slower, harder work of thinking critically. Okay, so this all sounds pretty bleak, right? But here's the good news. We're not helpless. This isn't some irreversible slide into intellectual oblivion. Critical thinking is a skill, and like any skill, it can be relearned, strengthened, and practiced. It starts with a conscious decision to reclaim your mind from the grip of ignorance and blind idolatry. First step, cultivate curiosity. Seriously, make it a habit to ask why. And how do you know that? Not just of others, but of yourself. When you hear something, especially something that immediately resonates with your existing beliefs or triggers an emotional reaction, pause. Ask yourself, what's the other side of this? What evidence would make me change my mind? This isn't about being contrary. It's about genuine intellectual humility. Be open to being wrong. That's a superpower in itself. Second, actively seek out diverse perspectives. Don't just follow people who think exactly like you. Intentionally read news sources that challenge your worldview. Listen to podcasts from people you disagree with, not to argue with them, but to genuinely understand their arguments. This isn't about adopting their views. It's about understanding the landscape of ideas, about testing the robustness of your own beliefs against different lines of reasoning. It's like stress testing your own mental models. Third, learn to identify logical fallacies. This is an incredibly powerful tool. Once you start recognizing common rhetorical tricks like ad hominem attacks, attacking the person, not the argument, straw man arguments, misrepresenting someone's position to make it easier to attack, or appeals to emotion, you'll see them everywhere. It's like suddenly being able to see the matrix. When you can spot these, you can disarm manipulative arguments and focus on the actual substance. There are tons of great accessible resources online that break these down simply. Finally, embrace discomfort. Real critical thinking often means confronting uncomfortable truths, challenging your own sacred cows, and sitting with ambiguity. It means realizing that sometimes there isn't a simple answer, and that's okay. Sometimes the most intelligent thing you can say is, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. This discomfort is where genuine growth happens. It's where you move from just accepting narratives to truly building your own understanding. It takes courage, but it's the only way to genuinely sharpen your mind and contribute to a more thoughtful, resilient society. Your mind is yours to control, and it's time to start exercising that control again. We've covered a lot today, right? We talked about how critical thinking isn't just about being smart. It's about being actively engaged with the world, questioning and evaluating. We looked at how easy it is to fall into the trap of comfortable ignorance, avoiding the hard work of thinking for ourselves. And we explored how modern idolatry, our tendency to place blind faith in certain figures or ideologies, can lead us to outsource our thinking, often to our detriment. Ultimately, we saw how this collective decline in critical thinking ripples out, damaging our discourse, fueling polarization, and making it harder for us to tackle the big problems we face. But remember, the power to change this lies within each of us by cultivating curiosity, seeking diverse views, spotting fallacies, and embracing the discomfort of true intellectual growth. Now, I want to hear from you. What's one practical step you're going to take this week to sharpen your own critical thinking skills? Drop a comment below and let's start a real conversation. And if you found this discussion thought-provoking, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the ideas that shape our world. Let's build a community that values thinking for ourselves,